Hey, this is another multifamily brief episode, and I'm your host, Brian Briscoe with Streamline Capital and the director of Tribe Titans. I guess I should mention both of those on some of these episodes. But that said, today we're going to talk about systems and scaling. What I'm really thinking about right now is how much time that I wasted early on recreating the wheel or redoing things that I'd already done. For example, I think the first time that I started really systematizing things is when I realized that I'd been sending roughly the same email out to every potential investor that I had talked with. I'd get on a phone call, I'd talk with somebody, and then I would sit down and I'd write a personalized email to them. At first, I was thinking, yeah, I don't really want to send people a template. That's not personal. What I started doing is writing an email that was personalized. But what I started realizing after writing hundreds of these emails is I was putting 90% of the same content into all of these emails. I was figuratively recreating the wheel every single time that I sat down to write this email. So what I ended up doing, I've since iterated and made the process better. What I ended up doing is writing down all the key things that I would talk to people about, or all the key things that I would send in that email after the fact. And I put it into a template. Then every time I sat down and I was writing that follow-up email after the investor call, I would open up the template and I would cut and paste the template in there. And I would keep what needed to be kept. I would add something personal at the very beginning, or maybe do a couple of edits. But it took a 10-minute email and turned it into something that only took me 2 minutes to write. And it had all of the information in there. I never had to really spend a whole lot of time on the stuff that I was going to send them anyway. Let's look at systems. And once again, I'll go back to my background. I was 20 years in the United States Marine Corps, and that's probably one of the better systems, or one of the better ways of systematizing how you do things, where everyone who goes to boot camp, we call them recruits, every recruit at boot camp is taught roughly the same thing. And that way, when they get out to the units that they're eventually going to be stationed, they all know roughly the same thing, and they're cogs into a bigger system. Each one's replaceable. Now, relating that to apartment investing, the average listener of this show is an aspiring investor, hasn't quite got their first deal yet. So I'm talking to the people who are just starting out in the business. I think this applies to all levels if you haven't been able to do this yet. When you do something for a first time, if you think it's something that you're going to ever do again, take a little bit of time to document the process. Take a little time to document how you did it. And then the next time you did it, you can pull out that template or pull out that document and say, all right, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to follow this system. But you can always make adjustments. You can always make sure that every time you do something, every time you learn a better way or more efficient way of doing things, you're keeping track of that. Eventually, through a very iterative process of doing it a little bit better each time, you come down with what is your system. Okay, whether it's underwriting properties, hey, I just got the email from the broker. What now? You can go through, pull out your template, go through your system. Same thing with due diligence on a property, or submitting an offer, or your investor calls, as I mentioned already, or the follow-up to the investor calls, or once you have a deal under contract, the email you send out, the blast you send out to everybody on your distro list saying, hey, we got this deal, who's interested? All of this can be templated. All these things you can do once and save yourself a lot of time in the future, but not having to recreate the wheel every time you go through this. Now, not only is this a time-saving technique, and I think if all you did were trying to save yourself minutes and seconds, you're doing yourself a disservice. Look at this also a next level, is it turns into a checklist. If you're doing this every time, you're going to be more effective and more efficient. You're not going to miss anything. If you're doing due diligence on your third property and you've already done it a couple of times, now you can go through and say, okay, what did I miss last time? And you can re-look at the process every time and iterate and make it better. Every time you do it with the eye of making better. You can bring it down to a checklist, make sure you don't miss anything. And something else that it allows you to do is it allows you to scale. Having the same reports or the same templates on all of your properties, on all of your underwriting, is going to streamline the process so that eventually you'll be able to do more with less time. Eventually, when you get to that point, you're going to be able to hire employees and you'll have everything you need to teach them your system. You can just hand them the templates and say, this is how you underwrite. This is how you conduct due diligence. This is how you do every single investor call or follow up with investors. This is how you do fill in the blank, any part of the business that you're going to be doing. End of the day, build your systems up by first thing, document how you do everything, make adjustments to that, and make it a living, breathing document until you're at a point to where it's a good product and you can teach it to other people. It's still going to be a living, breathing document. It's still something that you're going to revisit frequently and ask yourself, is there any way we can do this better? That's it for today. Definitely check us out on Instagram. We do have an Instagram channel. Also, check us out on YouTube as well. All the episodes that we do on the podcast are also on YouTube. We'll see you there. Hey, if you like that episode, make sure to subscribe. But more importantly, if you haven't joined our multifamily educational community yet, which we call the Tribe of Titans, you are missing out. Get 30 days free by clicking the link in the description to this episode, or go to thetribeoftitans.info, and we'll see you there.